Hello and welcome to Top Story. As the count continues in Pakistan's parliamentary elections, it looks as if the Pakistan People's Party, or PPP, the party of Benazir Bhutto, who was assassinated during the campaign, has emerged as the biggest force in Pakistan's parliament, but not by enough to claim outright victory. An intense period of political bargaining is now likely as Asif Ali Zardari, Bhutto's widower and new leader of the PPP, looks to forge a parliamentary alliance. He's expected to cut a deal with Nawaz Sharif of the PMLN party, who's a recent return from political exile and fierce critic of President Pervez Musharraf. The key question is whether they can muster more than two-thirds of seats in Parliament, which would be enough to overturn the constitutional changes introduced by Musharraf to ensure his own re-election as president. Well, joining me now by satellite from Pakistan to discuss the election and its implications for the future of the country is Zahid Hussain, who's a journalist and author of Frontline Pakistan, The Struggle with Militant Islam. Thanks very much for being with us on Top Story. What is the picture that's emerging now in Pakistan? Does it look as though the PPP is establishing a clear majority?
Well, actually, People's Party has emerged as the single largest party, but short of a majority to form the government on its own. So what I think we are heading towards a grand alliance between the two major political forces, Pakistan People's Party and Pakistan Muslim League, led by former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. So that is one possibility which is very clear. Otherwise, actually, no party is in a position to form the government on its own. So basically, it will be good for the country's future, democratic future, because that's the time and the need, actually, and both the leaders have been talking about a government of national unity. But it's a bad news for President Musharraf. I think probably after this landslide victory for the opposition, his survival has become much more difficult. And I think probably both the parties are committed for that.
Sorry, before we get on to talk about the implications for President Musharraf, I'd just like to... There was a lot of fear before this election that there would be vote rigging and violence. Did that happen in the event?
Well, actually, probably because of this huge wave, anti-government wave, and also support for the opposition. Even if the government wanted to do something, it could not do. And I think probably that's what, that basically they could not afford to do it, because there could have been a huge backlash and resistance to any attempt to rig the polls. The margins are huge, and in this kind of situation, the rigging has become rather impossible.
How big a factor has the Benazir Bhutto factor, if we can put it like that, been in this election? Clearly there was an emotional groundswell after her assassination at the end of December. Was that critical in the end, do you think?
Well, actually, it was an important factor, and particularly in Benazir Bhutto's home province, where actually there was a huge sympathy wave. But on the whole, actually, I think anti-Musharraf or anti-establishment or anti-government sentiments were much more stronger, and that was reflected in the election result in Punjab, where Nawaz Sharif has got a landslide victory. So I think probably its anti-government sentiments were much greater, and combined with that, actually, that in Sindh, that's one of the reasons why Benazir Bhutto's party has done so well there.
Do you expect now Benazir Bhutto's party to ally with Nawaz Sharif's party? And if so, I suppose the critical question is, will they be able to get the two-thirds of seats in Parliament to be able to overturn the constitutional changes made in November by President President Musharraf, I'm sorry.
Well, I think with these two parties and some other political parties like Awami National Party, which has got a substantive support base in Northwest Frontier province, they could muster two-third majority, and I think that will be that will make General Musharraf's position more vulnerable, because once they have the two-third majority, they can overturn the amendments made by President Musharraf in the Constitution. And major issue with Musharraf is that these parties will not indemnify his actions taken after imposition of a state of emergency on November 3rd. And the other issue, which is very critical for the survival of President Musharraf, is that they are also committed to restore the judges which have been sacked by President Musharraf. In this situation, and also because since Musharraf is no more the army chief, his position has become vulnerable. And I would go to the extent of saying that I think his days are numbered.
Is there a real possibility that he could be impeached if he were to stay on?
Well, actually, I don't think the issue will come to that extent. And before that, he will understand the situation and may decide to step down.
So the real loser in this election is President Musharraf, no question of that.
Well, actually, this is simply the referendum against President Musharraf. And that's very clear. This is verdict against General Musharraf and not against PMLQ. PMLQ has been defeated because it was a closest ally of President Musharraf.
Okay, so where does Pakistan go from here, though? So this election, you say, has made life impossible for President Musharraf. Are we going to see presidential elections just around the corner?
Well, I think probably, yes. I think the election of President Musharraf, or re-election, was already controversial. And I think the next parliament will try to have a new president of its own. And I think probably it's very clear that once the new government comes to power, they will not like to work with a president with so much power concentrated in hand. But once actually they remove those amendments, the president will become a lame duck president. And I don't think, and Nawaz Sharif has already given an indication that his party will not work or not be a part of a government under President Musharraf. So basically that leaves things very clear that with President Musharraf in power, there cannot be a stable political government. So he will have to go then.
Very briefly, Pakistan facing huge problems in security and the economy. Is this a parliament, is this an alliance of forces that can correct Pakistan's problems?
Well, Pakistan will be facing a huge challenge, as you said, actually, on the economic front, as well as one should not forget that Pakistan is in the midst of a war against extremism, and so basically that requires a kind of government which do not only have the legitimacy but also have the support of the largest number of people.
I'm awfully sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you there.
This is the time when we can have it.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks to our guest Zahid Hussain in Islamabad. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye.